Hey, what's up, everybody? This is Raul Avila, along with my co-host, Pastor Nate. How you doing today, Pastor Nate?
Raul, I'm feeling blessed, man. I have no complaints. Life is
the
good.
weather now?
Oh, my gosh. So anybody's in the desert, you'll know it's getting warm out in the desert.
Yep.
We've had our first triple-digit kind of week, but it's good. It just means there's less old people out here. The restaurants are more open. The roads are free to drive. The valley's ours again. So we've been hosting people for the last 6 months almost, and it's great to have it to ourselves right now.
Yeah, definitely. So this is Father's Voice, the podcast dedicated to empowering men to embody essential qualities and values in the roles of father, husband, provider, and man of God. In each of these episodes, we are chasing greatness, drawing inspiration from timeless wisdom of the Bible and personal experiences from many of our guests. We're confident you're going to love this and you're going to enjoy. You're going to get a lot of value out of this. And if you do, make sure you like, you subscribe, you share, and maybe you know somebody that needs to hear this message specifically. We're confident you're gonna feel comfortable and you're gonna want to do that. So let's get started. Today we have a
double whammy. Two.
It's gonna be fun today.
It's gonna be fun.
I've been talking to you, and I've been thinking, on a conversation I had with Leo, especially. It's going to be good today.
Yeah, it's going to be good.
Really good.
So today we have two people here. So we have Leo, who's half Filipino, half Latino. No, I'm sorry, three quarters Filipino, 1/4 Latino.
Yes.
He's a party. So he's going to be a lot of fun. He comes from a world right now where he's a single father, and he'll have some insights for us on that. And then we have a hoot of a guy, a party like the guy that's always in the middle of the party. In fact, both these guys are in the center of the party always. And that is none other than Carlos, recently retired.
How you doing?
He's actually from Belize, right?
Yes, sir. I
So he's
wasn't
Belizean?
born there, but yes, my parents are from there.
So down by Mexico, Central America,
Yes, sir.
kind of thing. And this guy is a lot of fun. So today will be a very active, energetic, engaging, fun conversation with two incredible men.
Let's do it.
Let's do it.
So we long time ago we talked about why don't we, because we have a great conversation, and we said let's start this podcast, man, because these conversations, I think they would bring a lot of value to helping men, especially fathers specifically, and talk a little bit about that. We haven't actually done this, Pastor, so we could have a good foundation of our conversation. Is what was the purpose of this podcast?
The reality that in our society today, and so it's 2025. In a lot of ways in our culture today here in America, there's a lot of trying to quiet the man or shame a lot of fathers for different reasons. And so part of this podcast, the genesis, the beginning of it was that it would give a chance for men to articulate like what they did and why they did it, and sort of hear the heart of a father. So it's not like we're going to treat men like, hey, they're just this hard, mean man, or are these caricatures that we see of who men are, or I don't know if you watch Bart Simpson, the comic, the father's always the biggest idiot.
Yeah.
And generally, if you look at a lot of things in Hollywood, the father's the big idiot. If you look at almost every Disney story, from Little Mermaid to Aladdin to it's always the dad who's the idiot, and the kids teaching the father. Now, don't get me wrong, there's some of that happens, but there's this narrative in society that fathers are the biggest buffoon in the room, and it's okay to laugh and have fun, but
not necessary.
No, not at all. In fact, if you look at Scripture, specifically Proverbs would be the greatest book that illustrates that the father has lots of wisdom to bestow on his children, and so I think it's important that this podcast, I hope, and I know me and Raul had a lot of conversations about this, that it would bless young people specifically with the perspective of why fathers sort of do the things they do in this ever-changing society, and that our heart is not against whoever we're trying to help. It's to be a blessing and to add value to their lives. And so our hope is that in these conversations, young men and women will hear things from fathers that they might not have ever heard before. They only viewed their father as this certain kind of figure, this certain archetype, and they never knew his heart as to why he did it. And that their intent is pure, their heart is pure, and what they're trying to do is to be a blessing to them. And so hopefully in these conversations, it helps young people to hear why a father did some of the things they did, because I think oftentimes we're misunderstood. Yeah. So hopefully, and I believe it has been already, a blessing to lots of young people. So,
amen.
We'll jump in with both these. We'll start with Leo, then we'll follow up with Carlos. But obviously both of you had fathers, and so going back to childhood, starting with you, Leo, can you tell us of a story or some kind of scenario of how you interact with your father? And we're talking about preteen. So as a child, how did you view your father? What was your father like? Give us a little bit of background of who your father was to you, specifically in the area of like as a child. So before your double digit, 10 or less.
Yeah, a quick memory that comes to me like right away is my babysitter used to live down the street from me. And so every day he would just carry me, right? He'd get me dressed, whatever, and he would have a blanket, like a baby blanket cover me, and he would always walk me over to the babysitter. And so I've always remembered that always stayed with me till this day. And so, but if I could sit there and say one thing about my dad is that he was willing to give his time. I think in society as men, sometimes, we get to the hustle and bustle of the grind where it's not that he didn't handle his stuff, but, and he did, but he also made sure that he was available.
Yeah.
And so those are some early childhood memories. I mean, I remember we won a baseball championship. We were in Mustang, and he was the pitcher. He was like the pitching coach. Mm-hmm. And I remember wound up hitting a grand slam and wound up winning the championship. And I remember just running to first base.
The Dodgers could use him right now.
Yes, really.
Bad stretch.
But I just remember that, and he was just, he was just all ears. And so even when I was playing basketball as a young kid, he was still giving his time. And I remember I'd be so into the game, and he'd just be off into the corner, little Filipino man. And he's the opposite of me. So he was quiet, just off to the corner, and he would just be grimacing, and laughing and smiling, just proud of his son.
So your father loved you, and you loved him.
Absolutely.
Beautiful. Now, Carlos, can you share a story of your father and sort of what he was to you?
Well, my father, he's actually nobody really knows. He's my stepfather.
Okay.
But I've had him since I was 2 years old. Okay.
So a guy stepped in.
Yes.
Yeah.
My biological, don't know him, don't know his name. Mother left.
Doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter. It is what it is. But that's my father. But my father, super loving dude. Super loving, like extraordinary loving to a T. He would like try to drop me off at school, want to give me kisses. I'd be like, nah, Dad, we're not doing that. I don't want to, and he'd do it on purpose.
Very affectionate.
What age are you at that point?
This is all,
you remember?
it's all elementary school. This is from when I was a little boy to high school.
What ethnicity is your father?
To this day, he probably still wants to kiss me.
Wow. What ethnicity? Give me a visual.
He's Belizean.
Belizean, okay.
My father's Belizean.
So he's Latin and very affectionate.
He is Latin, very affectionate, very energetic guy. Very outgoing. I don't know if you guys met my father at my wedding. I know both were there, but wants to dance. He's just that guy. He's the life of the party. He's making jokes. He's that. I'm the loving part. I'm more like my mother. My mother's not very affectionate. She's not that. So when he would try to kiss us, or kiss me at least, I'd be like, no.
So you didn't want the kisses?
No. Didn't want no kisses. Not in front of school.
So he's dropping you off in the car or walking you up and wanting to kiss?
And he wants to kiss me on the cheek or kiss me on my forehead.
And you're not wanting any of that?
No.
But that's when you're young. Now you appreciate it in a different way.
I appreciate
it. You grew into it? You grew into it?
I grew to accept it. It's like, you know what? Now I know, man, this is out of love. This is out of him expressing himself, and that's how he expressed himself with all of us, though. Yeah. With my mom, too. My mom didn't like it either. So, both me and my mom were the same as far as that was concerned.
So, like, in that book of love languages, his is physical touch.
Physical touch.
He wants physical touch.
Yeah.
Yes. This dude. That's him. Love him to death, though. If I call him, he'd be there. Anything, I don't want to go too far into, but we're talking about young, but he was always there for me. Always. Anything I had needed, he was there. All the lessons that I needed to be had, he was there to give it. I don't know, when I say stepfather, I don't know it like that.
Yeah, technically stepfather, but by no means.
Just to let everybody know, but
right.
He is my father.
Mm-hmm.
Whenever I speak about my dad, that's my dad. Mm-hmm. So that's my.
And no deficiency from that. Like,
none at all.
He was that good.
He never treated any of us any different. My 3 sisters never treated any of us different. I wouldn't have known if he did, but he never did, though. So I'm going to say that for him, that he treated me.
What's his name?
Anthony.
Sweet.
So as I was the only child because his daughter was somewhere else, but I was the only child for a while. So he took care of me like I was it. So that was my dad.
So huge shout out to any dad who steps in to that role, because for some it's not easy,
Yes.
but obviously he made a huge difference.
Yes.
And there's no deficiency, nothing lacking in terms of
None.
your upbringing, because this guy stepped in and just killed it for you. Did an amazing
All day,
job.
every day.
That's
it.
awesome.
Yes.
So blessings on Anthony
That's cool.
and any man who does that, because that's
Yes.
amazing.
Okay. That was about it. You want me to say more?
I do have a question.
Go ahead, sir.
Because you mentioned that you haven't met your real dad.
No.
And not even nothing.
No
at all.
desire.
Okay.
Recently,
Yeah, because he mentioned it doesn't matter, or who cares or something
Yeah,
like that,
yeah.
right?
It did.
But how do you feel about that? Like, do you ever does it ever cross your mind? You know what? I would like to meet my father.
recently, yes. Just to know, just to
Who he was.
I think you come to a point in your life where you're like, man, I want to see what my other side looked like. Maybe I have brothers and sisters. Maybe, yeah. But I think I had a conversation with my mother, passed, and we kind of got a name out. So, but that's about as far as it went. It's not a great desire or anything like that, but yeah,
But
because
just
my
like a little
father's filled
wonder.
the place, and he's that's my father to me.
Mm-hmm.
So I kind of dropped it in my head. So it's, not until you brought it up right now that I'm actually thinking about it.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah.
So we'll go right with you, Carlos, into being a teenager. So at some point you become a teenager. How was your relationship with your father in your teens?
See, I was one of those lazy children.
Oh,
I was, as far as school was concerned. So me and my father's our relationship was a little contentious, I guess you would say.
because you wouldn't be
Because
grades.
I wasn't doing my schoolwork.
Right.
I mean, we could move on forward to, hey, it happened to me, but as a father to my boys too. But I was my boys when I was that age.
Gotcha.
I didn't want to do my work. I wasn't disrespectful or anything like that. Schoolwork wasn't a thing for me. I didn't want to do it. It wasn't important.
Could anything have changed that? I mean, because
I was lazy, Pastor Nate.
were you lazy or were you focused on other things? Were you more into the social aspect of school, or
Or maybe
I wasn't a big partier because I didn't go out much. I had a group of friends. I mean, I was that kid that everybody knew. I was funny. I was this. I was that. I went to a good school. I had to take a test to get into it, and I got into it. I can't. They always, the old thing that people say about certain kids. Oh, he's smart, but he's a little lazy. I guess that was put on me. I think I am a smart person.
maybe you were bored.
And that's what they said. But a nun, because I went to Catholic school when I was younger. So a nun did tell my mom that. She goes, you know what? Carlos is super smart. He gets bored and he
Einstein?
Yeah, I guess so.
They say the same thing about Einstein.
Yes.
Yeah.
But I don't know if I'm that smart. But it is what it is. It just didn't. Now that when I went back to college when I got older, school, because I wanted to be there, it was easy actually. I got A's. I was it was like, okay, how come this wasn't? I don't know. I don't know what it is. Now that because you want to be there, and I tell my daughter that too. I tell my kids, it's the wanting to do something which gives you motivation and maybe unlocks that smartness in your brain that I want to be here, so I'm gonna succeed. And so, yeah. Back then though, no. My father, he was all about school. I would hide report cards. I would get to the mail first. Yeah, and he wasn't. School was very important because he didn't have the opportunities that I had. Okay, that he was giving me.
He wanted you to do better.
Him and my mother, right? Even though my mother went to school, he wanted us to do better. And I think it was a little disappointing to him that we weren't taking advantage of what he was giving us. So I understand it now because it happened to me with my boys. So I mean, he was there giving me everything I needed, and I was kind of, yeah, whatever. I just want to do me. Just leave me alone. Let me do me. I'm gonna get through it.
Is there anything you could have said could have changed you?
I don't know if anything could have changed. I think of how I am in my head and how I was at that time and what could have changed me. I don't know. Maybe more more tension because my parents were working parents.
Yeah.
I was by myself from when I was going to elementary school. I used to take the bus from LA, downtown LA, all the way to West Covina, California. And I was by myself most of the night. So I was free to do whatever I wanted, which was watch TV for me.
Yeah.
I wasn't out there partying. I wasn't a gangbanger. I wasn't none of that stuff. I wasn't drinking drugs, nothing like that. I just like watching TV. I still do. But and that's where I was. So maybe if I had more
maybe one-on-one, maybe tutoring or something like that.
Probably so, and I probably would have got through it. But yeah, I was left alone. They say latchkey kids.
Yeah, I've heard that. Yeah,
term.
Yeah.
I was left alone lots of time until my parents got home at night because my mom was a nurse. He drove trucks, and I was there by myself.
Yeah. Sometimes I struggle with that, in even raising kids, because I got a teenager right now, and it's that idea of like, how much can you actually, force this kid? And that's why I asked you, would it have changed if they did something? I don't know if it would have. And so, and I'm not here to say like abdicate parenthood, but I'm also here to say like sometimes kids are going to do what they're going to do. Like you can do 25 things to try to make them whatever, but at the end of the day, they're going to do what they want to do.
Yeah,
so good grades, you can't force on them. It has to come out of them.
True.
I was in the same vein. I mean, I have ADHD, and so I didn't know until I was, I don't know, in my 30s that I had ADHD.
What'd you say?
But ADHD.
I know.
So I'm just, and so so I mean, I just couldn't sit still.
Yeah.
I was very active, and so anything, man, like if I had to sit still, I was probably either falling asleep or, you know what I mean? Like I just needed to be active.
So with the ADHD, did you get medicated, or did you just sort of went through it?
At first I did, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, no more.
And that was more when you were a teenager, kid, or like as an adult?
I've had it since I was young.
But when did you decide to not use the drugs? Was that an adult decision or as a child?
So I think I was 34 or something like that. I'm 42 now. So when I discovered that I had probably the symptoms of ADHD, so then I went to actually go get checked, did a couple of tests, and then they said, yes, you do have ADHD.
My oldest son, same thing, ADD. And we made a conscious decision to not medicate him, although some suggested. And I'm not here to give medical advice other than to say what I have found in raising a son who has ADHD would be, I think it's actually a superpower. And I'll be careful with that because I'm not here to be dismissive of anybody that's going to decide to medicate. If you want to medicate, go ahead. But I think it's sometimes in medicating, and I know this is perspective, is that sometimes it might reduce your superpower. In other words, God made you beautiful and unique and energetic and unable to focus, and that's the way he made you.
Right.
And so sometimes by taking medications, you take out your superpower because it really can be a superpower.
So let me, as somebody that has taken medication for ADHD, I will sit there and say that the ADHD medication is really not for the person; it's for the surrounding people. It's really not for
So good. That's exactly right.
It just helps them.
Fit into society?
Yes.
Instead of stand out?
My son's the same way. So little Leo, ADHD, and he's not on medication or anything like that. But one of the things that me and his mom have to wind up kind of doing is kind of the people that are around him, kind of educating them about him.
Yeah.
And so, there becomes a tolerance level. There's only so much that, a person can sit there and tolerate until it's like an understanding to where it's like, okay, well, the agenda's not being done, and I understand this, but the rubber's meeting the road. And so it's up to the surrounding people to kind of the support to kind of, surround whoever has the ADHD and do it in a loving way, in a graceful way. But for me, I mean, my mom and dad didn't even know. Just like Carlos, my mom and dad were working. So, I remember I didn't see them.
So you're getting medicated as a child too, right?
No.
Oh, so it wasn't until you became an adult that you got medicated?
Yes.
Okay.
I got medicated like around 34.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. Because I didn't know I had it.
Yeah.
Until early 30s.
Gotcha. So to reflect back on what we asked him, as a teenager, what was your relationship with your father like? So when you were a teenager, you have this supportive, loving father, sort of introverted guy. What was your relationship with your father as you become a teen?
Patient.
Oh, wow.
And loving. So me and my mom didn't really have the best relationship, and so we would always kind of go back and forth. It was kind of this tug of war with me and her, and he was kind of like the balance here, right? Here's this Filipino man from the Philippines, And if you understand Latin culture could be pretty aggressive. And so that's just not Filipino culture, though. It's the opposite. It's fun, it's loving, it's getting everybody together, but they're just doing it in a way that's just kind of
Family oriented
for sure. And so he was kind of the balance. And so I remember there was tough times. I remember in high school, I wound up sitting there leaving the house. Me and my mom had kind of got into it a little bit, and it was my dad that went to go get me. Yeah. And it wasn't like he said, this heartfelt thing. He just said, "Hey, Leo, it's over. Just come on." And he went, and him and my sister went where I was staying, and then I just came home and wound up sitting there talking that out. And so I'm forever grateful for him.
Good father. So I know, and Leo, I'm going to jump ahead for a minute.
Yep.
Just sort of where you're at right now. You're a single dad.
Yes.
There's a lot of unique challenges, in my opinion, of being a single father. And I think from my observations, and I don't know all the details of every single day, but I think you're doing a great job as a single father. To any single dad that's out there right now, what would you give them as far as advice? Because I know it's just a whole set of unique challenges for a man to be a single dad in your situation.
Yeah, I think the world's going to give you every opportunity to be a victim, and don't take the bait. You were called, right, to be king and priest, and do so. Has the dynamic changed? Absolutely, for anybody. And so now you're single and you're by yourself and you have your kids and you got to sit there and do the thing, but you just got to do it alone now. That's not an opportunity to pick up victimhood.
Yeah.
What do you see in single fathers that, like, what kind of victim mindset do they have that you're referring to?
So, like a lot of times, you'll see the genders blame each other, right? Oh, baby mom did all this, whatever.
Oh, with the kids.
Yeah, with
like
the
talking
kids,
about
right.
their. Oh, okay,
Yeah.
okay, yeah, I see what you.
That could be one form of victimhood. The other one is like we have a men's group, right? And you could literally just go on and talk every Tuesday at men's group about, being a victim and how hard it is. And the reality is, though, is that you have food on your table, your kids have somewhere to sleep, you're still making it every single day. And so it's being trapped because for whatever reason that you allow. And believe me, it's not a good enough reason either. And so, so I encourage single fathers to not take the bait and sit there and walk in your authority.
So let me ask you this specifically, and I'm just bringing it down. Like, once you have a family, like a divorce, right? Two parents couldn't get along. Then there's a tendency for each parent to sort of peck at each other over whatever. And I think if you can tell me if I'm wrong in this, because I've never lived it out, but you're saying that sometimes being a victim is actually going out of your way to the kids. So in other words, the parents will go to the kids and go, "You're, mom or dad, they're bad because of this, this, and this, and this." But you create sort of a victim thing in continuing that cycle. Is that correct to say that? Yeah.
Yeah. And you don't need to do that.
Yeah.
Listen. Every kid, whether you're blended or not, but every kid's going to sit there and grow up to know the adult you really are. So you don't even need to sit there and kind of advocate your case, right? Like, if you are what you are, then let it be, right? I don't, especially to a child, I don't have to prove myself I don't prove myself to my kids, right? Like, I don't have to prove myself to little Leo. I don't have to sit there and say, hey, you know what, I'm a good father. Just be one.
Or make up a story of that of your ex to the kids.
Yeah. One of the things I always sit there and say, like, and I'm pretty public about this. Like, you'll never really see me talk bad about her, because at the end of the day, like when it was all said and done, I've done some real work upon myself to sit there and take responsibility from my side of the street. So if I've taken my side of the street and I've taken responsibility for my side, then no way can I sit there and cross the street and sit there and talk about her side. Like that's not even something for me to pick up, right? And so don't do that.
Yeah. Generally, there's going to be things wrong on both sides, right?
Right.
The danger of it is I think if you're always pecking at the other person, you're trying to involve a kid in a fight they didn't cause, start, or have much to do with, other than they're the victims of it. And so I agree with what Leo's saying. I think it's more healthy to say, let's not do that. In other words, brother, when I'm with my kids in a family like this where you're a single parent, don't spend all your time talking about how bad the other person is.
Yeah.
Make memories, have fun, enjoy whatever. But trying to tear down the other person is perpetuating victimhood.
Right.
And you're exactly right in that.
Yep.
I 10,000% agree with
But
you.
I know a couple that went through that, and the other couple put the 5 kids against the husband, and dang, it got really bad that the kids believed the story, and the kids didn't see the dad didn't see the kids for 5 years, and then 5 more years until he got to reconcile the relationship with his kids, with all of his kids. It started with one, after 5 years with one. 5 years later, 5 years after that, so 10 years total, he finally reconciled with all of his kids. And all the kids found out that the mom was making up a
There you
crazy story, that one of the daughters just recently got married, and she only invited her mom, but the rest of her family, because they were all on that lie, were not invited to the wedding. So it was really, really, really bad.
Yeah. So
That
I think
happens.
great advice, and Leo's saying it here, victimhood is actually continually tearing down the other person. If you and that person couldn't get along, so be it. That was your tiff. That wasn't the kids. The kids probably wanted you guys to stay together, but you couldn't. So you both had issues, you both had problems, and you couldn't coexist. So now you're broken apart. But don't go out of your way to continually tear down the other person. That helps nobody.
Yes.
Takes away your authority.
Yeah.
If we go back to Genesis,
Very subversive.
If we go back to Genesis, and the one thing that God did was that he gave Adam authority, and he gave him authority to sit there and talk and speak of naming animals and all this other stuff. It literally, victimhood will sit there and take you out of your authority.
The enemy has come to steal, kill, and to destroy. And Jesus has come that you have life. And so when it's continually tearing other people down, it's killing, it's destroying, it's not bringing life. And furthermore, the enemy's even called the accuser of the brethren. So I never want to start having the traits of the enemy, right? And I'm speaking specifically of the devil, like the one who's against us. And there's character traits that you can allow into a broken relationship that are similar, where it's continually attacking. And it does not benefit the kids at all. In fact, they get hurt the most because of it.
Yes. Anything you want to say about that, Carlos?
I went through a divorce,
Okay.
so I know about that. And my ex-wife, she would be under trying to bait. I probably bit into it 2 days, and I had to think about it to myself. I had to kind of conversation with myself and say, you know what, why are you biting into this woman that you're not even with? You're not mine anymore, so I don't have to be mad at you anymore.
Yeah.
You're not mine anymore, so I don't gotta argue back with you. So she called me every name in the book. I would get on the phone, and I probably would say, you know what, when you're done, give me a call back. And I'd stay calm. At that point, I was calm. And I'm not patting myself on the back, but I believe we got through our divorce real amicably because of me.
There you go.
Because she would try to bait, and she would try to push me to a point to where I'd be angry. But after that, she couldn't do it, because I knew better. There's no reason for me to fight with you anymore. There's no reason for us to rehash the things that we both did. For what reason? We already did it.
Right.
We've already made the decision that we can't be together. You don't love me, and there it is there. So why are you still so angry? But you know what? And as far as the children are concerned, I make it a point not to even talk about their mother. Every now and then we'll make jokes because we know how she is. But other than that, my daughter hates it. She'd be like, she looks at me and goes, duh. I was like, I'm not talking about your mom. You know that. I'm not going to do that. But we know how she is. But but I never told her stories. I never sent her back to her mom crying, saying anything bad about her. I don't even think my children know why we divorced. It was, to me, it's none of their business.
Yeah.
None of their business whatsoever. That's my business. My business is to take care of you and to give you everything that you need. My boy's the same way. That's my business. What I did with your mother, none of your business. Like I said, I may not have been a great husband, but I think I'm a pretty decent father. So let's go with that.
Well said.
And that's where I'm not going to be a victim. I'm not going to be the aggressor. I'm not going to fight with the other side because it don't get you anywhere. It doesn't get you anywhere but heartache.
This is unusual advice. I'm just being honest with you. But there are situations in our broken world where two people can't get along.
True.
Yes.
So we live in not a perfect world. I wish that every marriage lasted till death do they part, but that's not the world that we live in. Right. So because we do live in a broken world, I think these conversations are good to have because there will be people that go through this brokenness. In other words, there's going to be people that were in a relationship, and for whatever reason, the two people couldn't get along. So now what? How do I live? Do I just become some angry victim attacking the other person all the time, or do I go on and live life? And that's really your choice. And so let me say this: sometimes you can't force two people to stay together. Maybe for somebody that's even watching this or listening, you might be in that situation where you're like, I want this marriage to work. I want this relationship to work. You can't force that person. You just can't.
True.
Yeah,
and in our broken world, things like that happen where it falls apart. Right. But when that falls apart, I will say, and these guys are both saying what I believe, I affirm what they're saying. If it does fall apart, you need to get over being a victim and you need to get over attacking the other person.
Yes.
It does not help anybody in doing that. Find a therapist and complain about your spouse there. Yes. Don't go to your kids and think that they're now your therapist and you're going to talk about how bad your spouse was. It helps them not at all. What your kids want to do is be able to love both people.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So let them.
Yeah.
And so even if it's possible to even affirm the other person or find the good in the other person, speak well of the other person, like the Bible says, pray for and bless those that curse you. That's what we've been called to do. And it's hard to live out. But if anybody ever finds themselves in that situation, I love what these guys are saying. I mean, they've come out of some brokenness, but they're saying, hey, don't be the victim. Don't be on attack against.
To piggyback off of that, I make it a point to Mother's Day. Did you get your mom a gift?
Yeah.
Did you tell your mom about this?
Mm-hmm.
Did you let your mom know this? You need to respect your mother. Sometimes she'll come home and she'll complain. I'll be like, hey, you know what? You know your mom. You speak to her, okay? And me and her now have a decent enough relationship where she could call me. And I think we had an issue one time with my older son about something that he misunderstood. And she actually called me and said, hey, you know what? Sam thinks this. I was like, oh, does he? Well, thanks for calling me. I'll talk to him.
Mm-hmm.
That's good.
And vice versa. If I say, hey, Charlie's did this. Can you talk to her, please? And she'll go, yep, got you. Because on that, we never had issues with our children. We're on the, I think her and I are on the same page as far as their upbringing and how they need to be and where they need to be in life. So that was never our issue. Our issue was with each other, not with our children. So our children were never used as pawns, used as anything else other than us loving them and them being our children.
Yeah. So how old is your daughter?
My daughter's 18 now.
And she likes boys or doesn't like boys?
You know what? I haven't had to deal with boys other than her, maybe liking, but she's never really, there's no boyfriend. No boyfriend as of yet.
She's dating Jesus right
Just dating Jesus.
Right, let's go. We'll say that.
That you don't care.
All right.
Is that something she would say?
No, she wouldn't say I was dating Jesus. No. She comes to church, and I think I'm at the point where I bring her to church and she has to be there. I don't know if she would choose to be there, to tell you the truth. But all we could do is plant seeds.
Yeah.
And I know I'm going to send her off here going to college, so hopefully the seed sprouts, and I'm going to find her a church and maybe suggest, hey, here's one close by if you want to go, or you need a little talk, hey, go to church. But no, she wouldn't say she was dating Jesus. No boys.
Whew.
No boys yet.
That's a struggle.
All it is she has school. She likes hanging out with her friends. She played soccer. I kept her busy.
Yeah.
So
Who
I don't
did she
know.
go to prom with? Did she go to prom?
She went to prom.
Yeah, Ruby went to prom without any date either.
So did Charlie.
Yeah,
Charlie went to prom without a date.
How was that, by the way?
They said it was whack.
They didn't enjoy it?
Said the DJ was whack. They said it was whack.
That's what she said too.
I spoke with Ruby at church, and she says, DJ wasn't good, Carlos.
And that's they both go to the same school, right?
Yeah.
They're friends. They're friends.
Yeah.
Wow.
I think
they're going to the beach together or something.
Exactly. Because Ruby runs track.
Yeah.
Charlie plays soccer, but I think they know each other from church and the same kind of friend group.
Yeah.
I think because Charlie's friends with
they
Julia.
were in track also. Cause,
Yes. Charlie's friends with Julia, and Julia's friends with Ruby.
yeah.
So it all works out.
Yeah.
You don't know these people.
Yeah, no. My son said he went to prom. Oh, he's a junior, and he said it was great. But
Oh, did
it was
he?
a different, yeah, it was a different prom than you guys'.
Okay, yeah. It was. They said
He
it
said he
was-
took pictures with a girl or whatever, but he wasn't. I mean, every kid's different. He didn't have a date either. He went with like 4 of his friends.
I think that's the thing now. You go,
Think so, too.
You just go. You just go with the friends.
Yeah, you just go with friends, and I'm okay with it.
Yeah, that's good.
I'm okay with it.
That's good.
I'm waiting for boys to be introduced, but not yet. I'm sure when she goes to college, because she's not a bad looking.
No, she's a pretty girl. That's why I was concerned.
Yeah.
I feel it for both of you guys. I mean,
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Both our daughters
Yeah.
are decent looking little girls, right?
yeah. All I can think of is I keep buying guns and polishing them. I'm thinking like, will this scare off the guy or will this
Well,
like?
I just gave her what she asked me for her. She got for a birthday gift. You know what I gave her?
Huh.
I gave her, and she asked me for this. She asked me for a stun gun, a knife, and mace.
Love it.
And I got put in a pretty little case for her.
Pink little thing. Yeah,
It was,
yeah.
it was purple.
Yeah, there you go.
The little knife has
That's
her name
cool.
on it.
That's good.
She has a little stun gun, and
Yeah.
she asked me for it. I gave it to her yesterday. She was like, "Dad, love it. All right, now I'm ready, and nobody's gonna kidnap me at college." I was like, "Yeah, they may still kidnap you, but at least you'll give a fight, right?"
Yeah, yeah.
A
you're fine.
couple weeks ago, I took Ruby to learn how to use a mace.
There
I
it
gave her a
is.
little pepper spray.
Yeah,
and
that's
like,
good.
This is yours.
This is the world we live in.
Yeah, this is the world we live in.
It
We're
is.
living, you
It
know.
is.
So I know this.
It is.
I know this because of where I used to work. But this is the world we live in, and you know what? I give my like Pastor always says, we equip, right?
Yeah.
So I'm equipped.
Yeah, let me say something. I'm a key on it. So you mentioned a second ago, you obviously were in the prisons for a while.
I worked in state prisons for 27 years.
And in terms of like, because I know me and Raul often quote the statistics. I think it's like 90% of those incarcerated didn't have their biological father in their home. Like a high rate of like,
Yes,
they
it's
say
true.
like the biggest thing if you're in prison, what did you not have? And it's always a father. Like that's
True.
one of the biggest things.
True.
Any experiences with inmates where you would have thought, hey, if you'd had a dad, have been different, or like, was there any kind of interactions with anybody that you would have said,
You could say all of them.
Probably all of them, huh?
That's a key component in growing up. I
It is.
can't imagine if I listened to Leo, if his father wasn't there, I
Yeah.
don't know what would happen because he
Yeah.
said he had beef with his mom a little bit, right?
Yeah.
So who would have came and got him if his father wasn't there? He might have stayed at that house. He may have gotten into whatever, this, that, and the other. Same with these guys. They didn't have a father that was an authoritative figure in their life. They had a mother, and I'm not downing women because
Not at all.
women could be strong, women
For
could
sure.
be authoritative, but it's a different thing than having a father. I believe.
A father's
We
presence.
know.
Is,
Yeah.
a father's presence
I think
is
you
different.
need both, obviously, but that man's presence in a boy's life, in a girl's life, is a difference. So yes, I would say all of them. If they had a father, that may have changed
That's
lots
a
of
huge
things.
common denominator.
Yes, all day long. Yes, I agree. So the father, all my guys that come in that say they don't have fathers, because they look upon us as when they come in, and I'm the authoritative figure at this point in time, and they're not used to that, right? They're not used to that. So I may be filling in to a small extent as a father figure to them and say, hey, guy, you need to go to school. You need to get these papers done. Come back to me when you're done, and we'll figure it out. And they respond to it. And you think they wouldn't, but they do, because they're like, man, this is the first time maybe they feel like somebody caring about them, and is telling them what to do. I mean, he always presents Genesis as far as what God gave Adam and Eve. The first rule: don't eat from the tree. So once we give you rules, that's a form of love. And I think these men take it as such when I give them rules. Like, hey, you need to do this, you need to do A, B, and C, come back to me. And they're like, all right. And they almost they always, when they come back, I don't want to put it like that, they like it.
Like they want to please.
Yeah,
like a father figure type.
Exactly. They like a father, hey, you know what? Here you go, Dad. Like, you did good. You know what? They're not used to that.
For sure. And I think sometimes as a father, like we certainly are different than mothers. Sometimes women, because of their emotions, can be more manipulated by kids. And I've seen it, like, especially my sons and even my daughter.
Yeah.
Whereas guys, we're a little more blunt and we sort of see through things.
All day.
We see through the haze, the smoke, the baloney, and say, no, here's what we said. Like, I told you to be home at 10 o'clock. Yeah, but blah, 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 blah. And you're like, no. I told you to be home at this time. Yeah, but no. And so we can sometimes see through it more
Yes.
clearly,
Yes.
and we don't get as manipulated
Agree.
as women can be.
Yeah,
And so,
and
like
we
they
don't
said,
tolerate.
like they said, there was a study that came out, and they basically compared like single parent homes And basically, in a single mom's home or a single father home, with a single father, the outcomes as far as education, success in life, they were almost equal to a 2-parent home. If it was a single mom, it was sort of catastrophic. But a single dad had higher outcomes. And I believe it's because men can probably sort of walk in two different worlds. And you wouldn't have expected that. I didn't expect that either. But there was research that was done. It was out, a study in November last year that showed that a single dad does better than actually a single mom. I would never expected that. Wow. And I think it's because men can see sometimes through things and sometimes even lead. Some might call it abrasive or harsh or whatever, but we can do things and make harder decisions sometimes without being manipulated.
True.
So
I agree with you.
Not to be too divisive.
Yeah, well, women, they want a mother.
3 girls. You got 3 girls.
Yeah. And I see, like, with my youngest daughter, when I try to, discipline her, she wasn't getting straight A's like my other 2 girls, and I started putting rules. And look, if you don't do this, this is gonna get cut down. We're gonna cut back here, back there. And my wife's like, "Déjala, leave her alone." It's like, just get away from this room. Let me deal with my daughter here. But that's what women do.
Every child is different.
For sure.
So how you have to deal with your younger one is different than you have the other 2. Like Charlie, I don't think I've ever looked at homework, ever.
Wow.
I don't think I feel like I'm an absent dad when it comes to her.
She's that good.
Yes. This little girl is 5.0.
Nice.
Top 10 in this. She got her little top 10 certificate the other day. I was like, okay. I never checked her homework. I never asked her, did the work get done? She'll be like, Dad, I had to study. I go, did you study? Or she'll come up and like, hey, I didn't do it. She'll tell me. I'll be like, well, you better do better. I'll be like, okay, what do I do in this case? But my boys, opposite end of the spectrum, I had one son that got straight F's one time. I was like, how do you do that, bro? That's impossible.
Consistency.
You just have to show up. I go, that is incredible.
Failed on PE?
Yes,
how do you fail?
Well,
and he's athletic.
Even a 5.0 is pretty impossible and incredible too.
As I said, I had this.
Both extremes.
I'll tell you what my daughter said when I told her.
That's incredible.
Yeah, my daughter. I told my daughter the story. She goes, Dad, that's impossible. He can't do that. How does he get straight F's? I was like, he did. I go, he did? She goes, Dad,
that's so hard
you
to do.
just have to show up and you'll get like a B, C. I go, that's you, my dear. This dude, he figured it out. He broke the matrix.
The system, yeah. He broke the system.
I don't know, but yeah. So I was on one end of the spectrum here, and she's on the other side.
I almost want to meet a guy that could get straight F's.
You never
heard of that?
You met him. He was my middle son.
I seen him then, yeah, at the wedding.
And that's why I think they both talk about me, and I was kind of like, our relationship, I was rough because I didn't know what to do with them. They weren't disrespectful. They just didn't do their schoolwork. Did nothing. Oh my God.
They just wanted to watch TV?
It's not even, they want to play games.
Huh.
And my middle son was all about his gaming thing, bro. And I took away his game. I tell this story. I took his game away one time. He curled up in the corner. And this is maybe he was 14.
Like a person on drugs.
And he said, I'm going to die. And you want to laugh right as a parent. And we're like, did he just do that? Right.
Yeah.
He did. Yeah. I just walked out the room. I was like, all right, bro. You're not going to die. You're going to be okay. Okay.
Which game system was it? Like Playboy or?
No.
Not Playboy. I mean, like, I don't even know. What is
Game Boy.
Game Boy.
No,
Game Boy, yeah.
it was one of the big gaming system, PS2, 3, whatever it was at that time, right? That's
wow.
Yeah, and he was, this boy.
Now, Leo, you have a teenager in your house, right?
I do. Little Leo's 15.
So why don't you talk about what are some of the challenges raising a teenage boy?
Yeah, I mean, yesterday, it was so funny. Yesterday, fresh, and he tried giving me this biggest excuse of why he shouldn't go to school and all this other stuff.
Oh, that's good.
And I'm like, okay, cool. And I said, I just kept eating my breakfast, and I said, hey, I don't know what you really think, man, but let me just tell you right now, like, that's a lot of BS. I was like, just know that I'm your dad and I can see through some stuff. All right. I was just like, so let's not do this. All right. So if you're struggling at school or if you have a test, one of the big things with him is he doesn't like to be timed. Like it just gets his like he gets anxiety or something. And so it just kind of freezes him. And so he doesn't like it. So what I've learned is that he'll try to get out of stuff, like out of tests and stuff like that. And it's not even that he won't do well. He actually knows it. He just gets stuck. It's just like it paralyzes him. And so once we kind of understood, like, okay, he struggles in this area of like, okay, how do I sit there and perform when it's time? And there's pressure on. If there's no pressure, you don't like you allow him to breathe a little bit. Lil Leo's phenomenal, and so he's got a phenomenal mind. But I've learned how to sit there and give him space when I need to give him space. I've learned how to sit there and take away that space when I need to take away that space. And so I'll be the first to tell you, I don't really yell at my kids at all. But that one right there, like he will, just like yesterday. No, not at all. But he will know, like, hey, like, okay, like Dad kind of sees through the smoke here. Like I can't sit there and work this like I work mom or I work grandma or the women, right? Because eventually the women will come to the men, right? His mom will come to me, his grandma will come to me and be like, hey, like, and I always tell them like there's certain things that I won't ever deal with my kids that you guys mind. And it's just and I say that purposely to them because it's this is the role of the father. Right? There's just certain things that we won't sit there and deal with. Yeah.
So Leo and I were having a good conversation. I'm going to bring it up because it was really good. I think it'll spice this podcast up a little bit.
Let's do
it. Where once you mentioned in one of the men's breakfasts.
Yes.
About that you said. And I agree with them, by the way. So this is going to be a good conversation.
Yeah, good. Let's go.
I
don't even know what we're talking about.
Wow.
Let's do it.
I think we got 10 minutes to do this.
Yeah.
Right.
Which is that if my wife ever cheated on me,
oh wow,
that I would forgive her, and it would be totally cool to get back together and figure things out. Remember you mentioned that?
Yeah, for sure.
Yes.
Yeah.
Can you elaborate a little bit about?
So here's what I would say. So marriage is a metaphor of our relationship with Christ. Right? So marriage is only a temporary thing that's here while we're humans walking around. So it's meant to be a metaphor of our relationship with Christ. That's why like when like Paul talks in both Ephesians and Galatians, where he says, husbands love your wives as Christ loved the church and gave himself for her. He points to this metaphor, right? So marriage is only a metaphor of our relationship with Christ. And so when we understand that marriage is a metaphor of our relationship with Christ, then the question is, have you ever been unfaithful to Christ?
Yep, of course.
Yeah, probably daily.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And does he abandon us and leave us?
Never.
And we are called as Christians to be more Christ-like, right? And so we're called to be different in that sense. And so whenever I say, like when Jesus talked about divorce, so the people actually came to him and they asked him, what about you think about divorce? Well, we have to understand in the time of Jesus, first century and going back, is that a man had all the rights in divorce. So there was literally first century stories of men divorcing a woman over a bad meal.
Yeah,
and
she couldn't cook.
She couldn't cook. I'm going to divorce her. And literally they would give her a right of divorce. And so Jesus said, they're asking Jesus, is it okay to divorce? And Jesus said, I only allowed Moses to give the writ for divorce, or the reasons for divorce, because of the hardness of your heart. Because you have a hard heart, you couldn't forgive. He said, I gave you. And then Jesus does go on to say, except for the reason of a lifestyle of infidelity. So people always say adultery, and I get what they say.
It does say that?
It does. No. I'm defining what adultery is.
Okay.
In the context of what Jesus is saying. He's actually speaking to a lifestyle. Okay, so he's not just saying a one-time incident. And so my point would be, is in marriages, because it's a metaphor of a relationship with Christ, and because we are unfaithful to him, but he's yet faithful to us, and we're called to be as Christ, as men. That's why I'm saying I don't believe that for adultery it's a justifiable reason for divorce. Although Jesus said you can because of the hardness of your heart. So if you have a hard heart, there's your past. You can divorce. So I'm not here to say you're not theologically sound. What I am here to say is that I believe Jesus has called us to love more and be more than that. So one thing I did tell my wife and told my kids and made sure everybody knew, that if in our relationship there was unfaithfulness on my wife's side, I would stay committed to the relationship. And I would say, like, if you have a woman who's unfaithful, a dozen times with a dozen guys, man, you've crossed some things there where I think it's a lifestyle.
Okay.
But I will say that if it's a sort of a limited scope of what it is, like a season, because people can go through different seasons. Sometimes husbands aren't being the men that they're supposed to be. Like the Bible doesn't even say that we're called, that the man, when you get married, you no longer have power over your own body, and she has no longer power over her body, but you're one with another. And then it even says in Corinthians that we're to render due benevolence. Like literally, you're supposed to have sex sometimes when you want to and you don't want to. And I know that in relationships, we always say, like, sometimes guys are like, I always want sex and she does it. Well, there's probably seasons where it'll reverse too.
For sure.
And so there are times and seasons where I don't think sometimes men are meeting their wife's needs and vice versa. And the Bible's against that. So what I'm here to say is that nobody here is perfect. Marriage is a metaphor of a relationship with Christ. If it is meant to be a metaphor of our relationship with Christ, he's always faithful to us, and we're the ones called Christ, and loving the church as our wife. Then when they're unfaithful, I don't believe that you should divorce.
Can I ask, you agree with that?
Yeah, I do, actually.
Do you?
Okay.
But you've been with your wife since you were teenagers, correct?
Yeah.
You've
But I
been
didn't
with
used to think like that, though. Like, back in the days, I think that was, like, the most unloyal thing that you could do is,
For sure.
right?
I get it.
So I didn't think like that. But I mean, I've never been through it. But if I've ever gone through it, I think I would go.
And
go
you've been with Pastor Paula since
25 years.
25 years,
Yeah.
right? I'm going to say this. I mean, I think you two probably the wrong two people to talk about this.
No, it might be the
Because,
right ones.
You may be, but
Yeah.
you've never been through it. I think
Yeah.
I could say right now, I was like, you know what, Pastor? Me and Pastor Paul have been going out for like 2 years. And how does that make you feel? You'd probably be like, well, Carlos? Right?
Yeah.
And you probably have to call her up and say, what's... I'm just interjecting myself.
And let me say this, you don't know exactly what me and Paul have went through too, so right?
No, I do not know.
Right.
I do not know what you guys have been through, right? I think...
It's a tough one, though.
Yeah.
I think it's
easier
easy to
said
say.
than done.
Go ahead.
Let me ask this
Go ahead.
question,
Go ahead. Ask the question.
to both of you, because me and Carlos have kind of been through this
Yes.
a little bit.
I'm
okay?
sure.
Through it.
Yeah, I'm sure.
But let me ask you this: you say that today, right? And would you say that at 17, 18 when you guys were younger?
Probably too dumb
Not
to.
me.
No, not me either.
Okay.
But over the course of time, I will say that though.
I
So
think
So you're not
in my 20s and
necessarily-
30s, I started saying that.
So
So in my
you're-
30s, I was saying that. By the time I was 30, I was saying that. Yeah.
So let me ask you this. I'm just trying to get some context straight.
Yeah.
Okay. So you're now coming from the place where you're saying, okay, I am not going to leave the relationship. Where is that coming from? Is it coming from the commitment of your wife or your commitment to Jesus?
Commitment to Jesus.
Say.
Well, I was gonna say commitment to wife.
Okay.
Commitment to my commitment to my relationship that I said I was gonna be there no matter what,
Val.
But it's commitment to Jesus. What would Jesus do? Not commitment to Jesus. More like I'm committed to her because we got married. I married her. I chose her.
True.
If she made a mistake, a big mistake. That's a big mistake.
That's a big mistake.
That's a big mistake.
Mm-hmm.
She made a big mistake, but I'm gonna forgive her because what would Jesus do? But not. I wouldn't look at it. I would like to hear what you mean by that. But
I would even say this. So
that's what
it's hard for me to find a place in Scripture where God said to divorce somebody. Even Hosea, when he marries Gomer, the prostitute, the town prostitute, he marries this woman. As a metaphor, again, of God's love toward Israel, he marries the town prostitute. She goes out and starts whoring around, and God's like, yeah, go buy her in the auction block still. Never once did God say, yeah, divorce her. She's horrible. This is the town prostitute.
For sure.
So I don't find Scripture where it says, like, God saying, yeah, divorce that one based upon this. What I'm trying to say is I think if you look at the totality of Scripture, I think it's important to try to work things out. And the danger that I see, and the reason why I'm saying this is, so the danger that I've seen in a lot of, especially with young people, and I hear them say, like, if you this, then I'm that. If you do this, I'm out type of stuff.
Sure.
The danger of that, you're setting yourself up for failure versus setting yourself up for success. Once you have kids, once you have a life together, you've built a legacy together, memories together, there's no person that can know me or love me like my wife. Period. So, and I get it. That's why, to me, I've made that commitment that if it ever comes up that it did or has, right? To be honest with you, I'm still committed to it because I believe the fruit of that is going to be better than the fruit of something else. And I'm not here to say, so I am here to acknowledge that theologically you would be okay if your wife is unfaithful in adultery to divorce. So get that out of the way. However, when you look at what I'm saying is the bigger picture of what marriage is, a metaphor of relationship with Christ, I do believe it is more Christ-like to say, I'm fully committed to this relationship and we're going to work things out. I'm not here to say like she goes off and cheats and I say, I'm sorry, you're forgiven, everything's fine. No, there's some things to work through.
Okay.
But I do believe that if a marriage, especially when you get a family and kids and everything else involved, it is best to try to work things out. And I know that's not always going to be the case, especially if you deal with somebody who's not fully in love with Jesus.
And obviously, you're saying this because she, on her end, also wants to work it out.
Right.
That's true.
She may say,
Very
hey,
true.
you know what?
She might want to.
I think the statistic is
right
80% of divorces are filed by women, right? Isn't that what it is?
True.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because they say once they go that way, they do it for a reason, and they're pretty much out.
They're out.
Yeah.
Correct?
Right.
And the largest triggering one reason is, I think, loss of employment.
Okay.
So when a man loses a job, that's actually the biggest
No,
reason.
but the point that you're bringing, Carlos, is good because for women it's different. Like sex
It is.
for men is way different than sex for women. And when
Sex
a
for a
woman,
man is necessary.
and when a woman decides to have sex with somebody else besides their
It's
husband,
intimate.
then there's a very deep issue right there.
And men are aware of this, and that goes
Very
into
true.
our heads, correct?
Yeah.
Very true.
So when we see our wife cheating, man, that's serious. I think
That's
on the
big one.
opposite end, when women see their man cheating, it's necessary for us, right? I'm not using that as justification.
No.
And Paulina, I love you, and I didn't do anything. But
Yeah.
but when we see our woman cheat, it's because we're lacking, and that now you're it's a blow to our ego, right? And that's just a real thing. It's a blow to our ego, and man, we don't know. Now you have that in the back of your head, and that perpetually stays in the back of your head because now, can I trust you?
Yes.
Now,
Yeah, all
when the
relationships
relationship
built on
goes on,
trust.
it's not fair to her even to
Well-
stay in the relationship for me to be that way.
But it's also magnifying prior to the cheating. It's magnifying whatever issue the relationship was already having.
True.
Now I'm lacking.
Now, whether or not you had the awareness of whatever the relationship was lacking, now it's going to be blaring.
For sure.
And now it actually created more emotional damage. And now you're probably something that you were maybe, I'm not justifying, but maybe you were completely unaware. Maybe you didn't sit there and take care of her needs, and now you're emotionally damaged. And I think that that's where it's like, I don't think I'm gonna speak for you for just for
Go
a
ahead.
second,
No,
but
go
I
ahead.
don't think me and Carlos have an issue with you saying you're gonna stay with
True.
your wife. Like that's like 100%. Like I think we agree there. But I think that to say that from the comfort of now versus when you're actually in it.
True.
Yeah.
Right? Like I can see in your eyes right now, you it's affecting you, right? And I'm just sitting there saying, like, as a man, when you go, you talk about the functional foundation of your being. As a man, you go to work because to be a provider for your family. We're talking identity at this point, right? You're talking now like the foundation being like heavily rocked, right? And if you're a man of Christ, like 100%, I don't even question that. But man, are you going to get rocked? And I think that's where it's like there's some hard work, because it's not just work with you and your wife. It's work now that's got to be done solely just your work and just your work.
I'd almost prefer you to say, I would like to be that way, instead of saying I will be that. I would be that way, because I really don't think you guys know what comes with all that.
Yeah.
I do.
All
Like
the
we
emotions
can't
that
say
come with it, you know?
Yeah,
Yeah.
we can't say what
But
we
I
would
would say
do.
I would like to be that. I would. What you're saying, man, I would love to be that guy, and I think I could be that guy. I
Yeah.
could forgive. I could forgive because I've gone through it. I believe I could forgive, but it all had to do with circumstances, the situation, the this and that,
Lifestyle.
exactly, and it had to do with all those factors.
Yeah.
But so the way I answer that question is, I'm not going to say that no, I wouldn't, or I'm not going to say yes, I would.
Yeah.
I would like to be Christ-like and go that route.
That makes sense.
That's the
Yeah.
way I answer
Yeah,
that
and
question.
so to
like
me
that.
would be like, I think you can make decisions while you're in your right mind versus while you're in the heat of the moment. And so what I want to be is a person of principle that says, I made this decision while I was in my right mind. So that when the moment comes that the chaos is going on, I already made this choice over here.
Speaking it into existence.
Yeah. And so like David, before he fought Goliath, he'd already decided when the sheep gets attacked, I'm going to kill whatever's the obstacle. So he made that decision in his right mind in little moments along the way. And so when it came to the giant Goliath, he was like, oh yeah, I'm ready for this too. So to me, I still would argue that it would be, let's make these decisions right now in my right mind while like it's not chaotic, so that hopefully when I get there, and I'm not here to say that I could always live it out, but I do believe if you make the decision now, to me, in a marriage, you create more security, more safety, and more Christ-likeness when you say, if this ever happens, this is what I'm going to do. Okay. Now, I'm not here to say that it always works out, but I do think you can make the decision while you're in your right mind and say, this is my plan. In other words, I'm not waiting for you to slip up and I'm out. It's saying, if you make a mistake, I'm going to still be there for you. And I'm going to try to make it through it. And I'm not guaranteeing it, but this is what my intent is, my plan.
So this is a conversation. Is this a conversation that you're having with your spouse?
Yeah.
Now, check this out. I was about to say that. My wife was the first one to say that to me before I said it to her.
Oh, wow.
She said to me, because my wife's the type that she's like, in her family, men are like the scum of the earth.
For sure.
It's not even a feminist level. It's man hater level. It's like the next level.
I got it.
So when we first got married in the first 5 years, she would say, if you ever cheat on me, we're done. We're like straight up, like, don't ever do that to me. That's my wife. Until maybe 4 or 5 years ago, and we've been together for 19 years. 4 or 5 years ago, she said, I want to tell you something, that if you ever cheat on me, I would forgive you. She said that to me. And she said it first before I said it to her. So I was like, wow. So then I could cheat on you?
No. Listen. It's either.
But that was powerful, though.
Listen,
you know?
There's one of two things going on here, Carlos. Okay?
What's that, sir?
One, right? These gentlemen like love Jesus with all their heart and all their soul and all their mind.
Sure, they do.
Yeah.
That's funny.
Or.
The Lulu?
Or
they married up.
I
knew you were going to say that.
Both are very true.
I definitely married up for sure.
Yeah, I did too. For sure.
Okay.
Well, I did too.
All right.
But and that's actually a heavy, both theological and practical question to ask.
Yeah.
And I think people should wrestle with those big questions.
Yes.
And I'm not here to say, like, once again, you could line up 10 theologians and probably 5 would agree with me and 5 wouldn't. But it's something that I've made in a practical sense. I made that decision for my life. That's what I'm going to do. And it has been a discussion. And I do think it's okay and healthy to discuss that. And I think the best outcome, like if you said, okay, what would be the best outcome 10 years down the road, especially when you involve kids and families and all that stuff that goes into it, it's probably best for the 10 year and 20 years down the road that you just stay together.
Well, let me say this real quick. For you guys, though, and for all of us, we're older. So it's easy to have this,
wisdom.
It's easy to say this and have this wisdom about it.
It is.
And we're far along in our relationship with God that we could say this.
And that changes everything.
And it does.
It does.
Like his point was earlier, it was like, at 17, would you say that?
Yeah.
But now you say it now because and a lot of stuff is, I put a lot of investment in this relationship. Mm-hmm. So to lose all that over, like I said, circumstances, a one-time thing, okay, we can work through that. I was drinking. You know what? Maybe I was as a husband, I was lacking at that point in time. Mm-hmm. Yes, okay, I guess I could work through that. So we as older men per se, we can make that.
You're right.
Say that. So I know in this podcast we're supposed to be talking to the youth, and hopefully the youth are mature enough to understand that and make those decisions also coming from us because we're a little bit wiser, we're a little bit older, right? So it's different being older.
Yeah,
you
it is
can say that.
different.
And I could take it from you, Pastor Nate, that
For sure.
hey, you know what? You could say that. And you too.
And I could see how a young person would look at us and say, "Oh, these guys, their testosterone is really low," or maybe they're saying
they got shots
these
for that
old
now,
guys have no idea what they're talking
Yeah.
about. Because that's what I would say. And if I was watching this when
cancel
I was 20.
culture, right?
Yeah.
Yes. So we hit on Jesus, right? But I want to hit on one other thing here, okay? In addition to Jesus, and obviously you guys have strong relationship with Jesus. We all do, right? Yes. And that's what's allowed us to be transformed. And to be honest, it's what allows us to say probably things that being committed. But talk about how you being in Christ, right? Abide in me and I in you. John 15:4, right? But can you talk about how you being in Christ actually has allowed you to make great decisions like picking out a wife? Talk to the single man here.
Yeah, so I'll say a few things. My strong advice, because I've done it, is if you're looking for a woman, ask God. And I know everybody's like, I asked God. Dude, I asked God, and he gave me a dream and showed me who I'd marry. And I believe in a God that will literally be that involved in your life. So I literally mean, ask God. I remember when I was 21, 22 years old, I was a virgin. I was like, God, I'm fixing to pop. I don't know if I can make any more years like this. And so I prayed, and I said, God, show me. I said, God, show me who I'll marry. And God showed me in a dream who I'd marry. And I believe that God will be that involved. So to any single guy out there, ask God to show you who you'll marry.
That's good.
And be willing to like embrace whatever he says. Like he's like, if it ain't the physical, whatever you wanted, or I would say this to a lot of the single guys, especially get older, 30, 40 years old, be ready, because almost all the good women are going to have kids. Don't think you're going to find some diamond in the rough with no kids unless she was unable to. True. Generally, every good woman, probably past age 30, is going to have kids in this world. Just accept that. So single guys, and I've heard too many guys thinking they're looking for the Barbie with no kids. Dude, you I don't know what fantasy land you live in. That's not the reality land.
Right.
Be willing to embrace a woman who already has kids, because the vast majority of good women past age 30 are going to have kids. So I would first say ask God and be ready for the answer, because I believe he will answer. So my advice is anybody single, ask God to show you. Pray, fast, whatever it is, till you hear from God. And I literally believe he will show you.
I want to be in that prayer and be like,
I want something else, God. I want she needs to be thinner. She needs to be like, no. Ask God, and he'll show you. And then be willing to embrace.
Making me scared.
Yeah.
Embrace what comes your way.
Embrace what comes your way. It may not be Barbie with no kids.
Yeah. Now, the way I did it was I wrote down a checklist.
Ooh.
Wow. This is the type of wife that I would like, and when I wasn't mature like that. For me, it was like, this is the type of wife that I would like. So I was dating around until I met my wife, and I said, dang, she checks off all the big check marks except faith, because she grew up Jehovah's Witness. I grew up Catholic, but when we started dating, we talked about that, because that was a big check mark for me. Because I had just become a Christian. My mom's hammering me because she says, you're not a Christian, you're a Catholic, and she's a hardcore Catholic. But I knew that was going to cause a lot of fights. So when we decided to date, we said, let's go to a church that we both could go together. And once we checked that big check mark, then I just went all in. 9 months after I met my wife, I married her. And that's one mistake that I see young people make, that they're dating this girl that is obviously a ride or die. She's with you, you're broke, and bro, you marry her before you lose that ride or die. And I think a big mistake that young people make is that they take way too long to make that decision to just, let's go get married.
I agree. Me and my wife dated for 9 months too. So like people that want to date for years, I don't know about that.
Sorry.
I would say that like it's okay to get married in.
We know why it only took 9 months.
They were ready to pop.
You kind of gave it away.
Yes.
Right.
Oh, that's so good.
But for the gospel's sake.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's in the Bible, is it? Getting ready to pop. Just want to say it again.
I'm gonna take notes. I'm gonna say, girl, you got 9 months.
You got 9 months.
9 months.
I'm ready to pop.
That's all I could tolerate. 9 months.
I'm ripe.
Oh, I think our time's up.
Sorry.
Hopefully along the way there was something that edified.
Is it getting hot in here?
A little bit.
I'm sure there was parts and aspects of this that will certainly edify, challenge, and grow people. Good. And I know that we'll have a revisit of this one. There'll be a part 2 to this one.
Let's do it.
Too much going on here. Too much fun to be had.
Let's do
it. Definitely.
Yeah. If you want more content like this, just ask in the comments.
There it is.
There it is.
We'll be back.
So Carlos, thank you so much for your openness and.
Hey, loved it.
Yeah, all that you are.
I didn't know what to expect. I was a little nervous, but hey, we did this.
It's good. And Leo, thank you as well for coming out. It's been a joy.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks.
All right. Thank you.